I'm Amanda Leitner, and welcome to Rochester Rising, where we amplify the stories of Rochester entrepreneurs. Welcome to episode 247 of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today and spending some of your time learning about small business and the culture of entrepreneurship in Rochester, Minnesota. We hope that today you learn something from entrepreneurs themselves that can help with your own journey. At Rochester Rising, we release a podcast each Wednesday. You can find our podcast on our website at rochesterrising.org, but you don't have to go there to listen in. You can find the podcast pretty much wherever you like to listen into your favorite podcasts, including on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our YouTube channel. In addition to these podcasts, we have 5 years worth of articles and videos that we've created telling the stories of both new and very experienced business owners. You can find all of that. It's all searchable on our website at rochesterrising.org. We really try to tell a bunch of different stories so that everyone listening in, reading in, can relate to somebody that we have talked to. Rochester Rising is part of Collider, which is a Rochester, Minnesota-based nonprofit that activates, connects, and empowers early-stage entrepreneurs in this community. You can learn more about Collider and how this organization can help accelerate and assist your journey at collider.mn. So we launched this podcast in 2016 to tell the stories of entrepreneurship that were taking place within Rochester, Minnesota, especially stories that otherwise would not have been told. As many of you know and have heard, we've been running a fundraising campaign for the last month. Unfortunately, we did not reach our goal. We didn't reach our fundraising goal to keep this platform going. So right now we have 2 more interviews that were recorded. So I wanted to honor the time these individuals took to sit down with us and share these stories. So we have 2 more podcasts to share with you. After that, we would direct you over to Collider. Make sure you're following Collider on all our social media. Our storytelling is definitely going to change as we move forward. It will not be as frequent. We're still figuring out what that looks like, but please make sure that you're following Collider social media and sign up for the newsletter to continue staying engaged with our business community and keeping track with our storytelling as it morphs into the next stage. But like I said, I had 2 more interviews recorded, have some great interviews to share with you over the next 2 weeks, and wanted to honor those individuals' time for sitting down and telling these stories. So this week on podcast episode 247, we have a little bit of a different story for you here today. For this recording, I was joined by 2 fellow entrepreneurial ecosystem builders to talk about entrepreneurship, what entrepreneurial ecosystem building is, and what everyone should know about our small business communities. So on today's show, I got to chat with Maddy Fisher, a Lead for Minnesota fellow working with the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, or SMIF, and Sean Williams, who is an entrepreneur himself and Director of Entrepreneurial Services at Rochester Area Economic Development, Inc., or RAEDI. So in this wonderful recording today, we share stories from our entrepreneurial communities, discuss ways everyone can support local businesses, talk about the value of small business in the communities, and much more. So you're in for a really great conversation today. So instead of talking with entrepreneurs, we talked with people supporting entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial ecosystem builders. And Maddy and Sean will both talk with you a little bit today about what that means to them and what role they play to help small business starters and entrepreneurs in the community. So before we start today's podcast, I just wanted to acknowledge our sponsor, CliftonLarsonAllen, or CLA. The team at CLA would love to get to know you, learn about your vision, and see if they can help. CliftonLarsonAllen is a full-service CPA firm with over 100 offices nationally, including right here in Rochester. Sure, they do taxes and audits, but they also focus on helping startups refine their vision, build budgets, work with banks and investors, and track and organize their accounting. They are deeply experienced in building business systems that allow you to focus on what you do best. Get product market fit, grow sales, hire talent, and create a thriving enterprise. Contact Todd Churchill at toddchurchill@claconnect.com or give him a call at 507-280-2317. All right, so I'll launch into today's podcast with Maddy and Sean. Well, Sean, Maddy, thanks so much for connecting over Zoom today to talk about what's going on in the entrepreneurial ecosystem that people should know about in kind of this newer series that we're trying out on Rochester Rising. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'll leave both of you kind of introduce yourself and share a little bit of your background. Maddy, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure, that works. Thanks so much for the invitation, Amanda. It's super exciting to be here. My name is Maddy Fisher. I am a fellow in a program called Lead for Minnesota, which places recently graduated folks from college or master's programs with nonprofits, tribal governments, or city or state governments, not only in Minnesota, but across the nation. So I am the fellow that has been placed with the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, which is based in Owatonna, Minnesota. So my role with them over the next 2 years has really been focused on our Prosperity Initiative program, which provides one-on-one business coaching over a 6-month period for BIPOC entrepreneurs that reside and operate within our 20-county region. So anything from outreach to finding partners for us to do this work with, sort of getting into those ties that happen in the community that are a little bit maybe non-traditional, especially sort of the networks that happen at churches and mosques or synagogues, different community events. So I work to, just engage with folks about how their idea is an entrepreneurial idea and worth pursuing. And then we get them the resources they need, and they can work with our small business lending programs as well, if that's something that they're interested in and looking for monetary support for their new venture, for their new company. So we serve a lot of really mom and pop shops, small places, and a lot of our entrepreneurs are very tied to place. That's a little bit about what I do with SMIF.
Sean, you want to share a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Amanda. It's always good to be on here. I think the last time I was on, I was talking about my comic book publishing company, Comicer Press.
Yep.
So a lot's changed since then. Some stuff hasn't, but basically my background is, 20 plus years as an entrepreneur. I wrote and produced in Hollywood for about a decade, and then moved to Minnesota after getting burnt out in Southern California. My wife got a job up here. And so I shifted gears to writing comic books professionally, and then kind of saw, how that business model was kind of broken. So I started Comicer Press from that. And then, kind of as with everything else in my career, it's been, one thing leads to the next, and got into high tech stuff and, pitching to venture capital and that kind of thing. And that got me tapped into the ecosystem here in Southeast Minnesota, and eventually landed a gig running the Launch co-working space over in Austin. And then they brought me on at RAEDI as a consultant to help run the Mayo Clinic Business Accelerator, which led to me getting hired full-time this past January to be the Director of Entrepreneurial Services at RAEDI, which is the Rochester Area Economic Development, Inc. We call it a public-private nonprofit, but we really are just more of a traditional economic development agency for the 4-county Rochester metropolitan statistical area.
So you both talked a little bit about your organizations and what they do, but if each of you would mind kind of breaking down what SMIF does, what RAEDI does, and what entrepreneurs should come to you for, because I think that's a big hurdle for people, not even really that understanding of this is where I need to go when I have this problem or I'm looking for this service. So if you can break that down for everybody, I think that would be immensely helpful.
Yeah, totally. SMIF is 35 years old, and we've kind of been known to do a variety of different things throughout the region. So I totally understand that there could be some confusion there. So our two main focus areas are economic development and early childhood. So economic development really consists not only of our Prosperity Initiative program, which I've mentioned, But also we have a technical assistance portion of our work in addition to our lending team. So our lending team they work with SBA. They have been instrumental in getting out the PPP loans that have gone out across all throughout southern Minnesota, even outside of our region, over the past probably almost 2 years now, I guess that is. But we also do lending in-house. We do a variety of different, whether it's kind of seed funding or if people are looking for scaling opportunities, if they're looking for, it's really open-ended. We have an equity lending team that reviews anybody who applies with us for any of I think we have 4 or 5 different funds that we can pull dollars from. So that is definitely something that I would encourage folks to engage with anybody from SMIF. We have a small lending team. It's just 3 people, but I'm happy to get people connected. Our technical assistance department not only does one-on-one QuickBooks training. So if that's a software that folks are interested in incorporating in their business, it's always an option for them. That would be free time with that person. But we also do monthly technical assistance trainings that are on a variety of different subjects and typically held virtually just due to the geographic spread of our region. So those are always opportunities that are free. And then the Prosperity Initiative, we typically are looking for folks that not only meet a specific demographic, we're looking really specifically to be focusing on BIPOC folks or veterans. Kind of maybe open for, I think it's up to 3 years. But I really have started working as a program manager during my fellowship of that program, is working with folks that may have an idea that they're still really unsure as to how they would create a business out of. We work so closely in partnership with folks at the SBDC, not only in Mankato, but also Rochester. A name I always feel like I'm hearing in pretty much every circle when it comes to entrepreneurship in our region is Mark Thine. And him and I have kind of a weekly call where we talk about folks that have ideas that maybe just need a little more refinement. So I do work personally with a lot of folks in the region to develop business plans to help get them registered. And then also part of the Prosperity Initiative application program is a letter of recommendation, just because the work we do as an organization is so place-based. We do like to see an investment from our entrepreneurs in the communities that they're looking to operate in. So that's a piece as well. So yeah, kind of more earlier stage, but definitely opportunities for funding at any point in your business journey or entrepreneurship journey. And then technical assistance, which we find benefits a lot of folks. And probably peer networks. My boss, Pam Bishop, would not be happy with me if I didn't mention the peer networks we do in partnership, not only with the Collider Foundation, but also with Diversity Council out of Rochester as well.
Yeah, and SMIF spans 20 counties across southeast Minnesota, right? So
yeah,
pretty much a lot of those people listening in are probably within your region.
Yeah, I mean, we're Martin County all the way over to Winona County and Rice County and up all the way to our border with Iowa. So we have a large bandwidth in that regard.
So in my role at RAEDI as the Director of Entrepreneurial Services, since this is a entrepreneurial podcast, I'm going to kind of focus more on that versus more the traditional economic development, grow, retain, diversify the economy side of things. But for the last year and a half, my job has been having a large portion of it taken up by administering grant programs that are coming down from the different levels. So we did 2 grant programs for Olmsted County that were CARES Act dollars. We did a 3rd one that was state funded through deed. And then for the city of Rochester, we did a CARES Act program as well, the Rochester Innovation Grant Program. So that's the grant administration side of my job. I also administered the Mayo Clinic Business Accelerator, which is currently hosting the Collider co-working space in the Minnesota Biobusiness Center. So happy to have you guys making your home there. Amanda was just waving from the accelerator, so I had to laugh at that. And otherwise, also administering the Rochester Economic Development Fund, which is a loan or investment in local Rochester businesses, equity investment. And that's really to diversify the economy, retain jobs, grow jobs. We've done a number of, retention loans as part of more traditional economic development packages, leveraging state dollars, that kind of thing, to keep businesses in Rochester. And then also had our first exit this year from one of our investments. So nice to see that paying off. It was started it's been running for a few years now. I forget how far back it goes, but I also connect businesses with the Southeast Minnesota Capital Fund, which is an angel investor fund based out of Rochester. And the first iteration of that is going to be winding up here pretty soon. I think they've invested all their initial fund. In addition to that, we also got named this year to be a lender for the Emerging Entrepreneur Loan Program, which is run by DEED. And that is specifically for loans to small businesses to basically, help them operate. And, it was really a need that we saw within the community, just especially administering the grant programs, where entrepreneurs would come to us and say, hey, I need money. I don't qualify for this grant program. What else is out there? And we learned about the Emerging Entrepreneur Loan Program. And as soon as they opened up applications for businesses to administer it, it's like, sign us up. We see the need in the community. Let's make this happen. And we're working on a couple other programs that haven't been announced yet, so I can't really talk about that. But then other than that, I'm really just a connector, finding out what entrepreneurs need and then, connecting them with the right resource. Most recently had a documentarian who was looking for, some videography for an upcoming shoot. And, it's like, here, let me connect you. Just, send a quick email message over Slack and, now they're up and running, it sounds like. So that kind of thing is really what I'm up to.
So I would consider us all to be entrepreneurial ecosystem builders. So just, being there in the background, supporting entrepreneurs, helping to make their process easier, faster, making sure they can grow within the community. So in light of that, what do each of you find the most rewarding and also the most challenging part of the work that you do to support entrepreneurs?
I'll go first this time, since Maddy seems to be thinking. So I'll start with the most challenging because that's where my head is at right now. And that's really just time, spent 4 hours in meetings this morning, had 1 hour to shove some food in my face and send a couple emails and then have, meetings booked up all afternoon. So just, really finding the time to make those connections happen and to, keep moving all the different balls that we're all juggling down the court, is definitely the biggest challenge. And I think that, as economic development agencies, we're all doing more than our fair share with the amount of funding that we have at our disposal and the amount of staffing and manpower and bandwidth. We're all just out there busting our butts trying to make things happen for entrepreneurs. So that's definitely been the most challenging portion of the job. But at the same time, I also think that the flip side of that is that, having all those successes is also the most rewarding, being able to make those connections and have something come of it, or to, finish up a grant program and to know that we, administered, over $6 million in the last 18 months to local small businesses. And yeah, that's definitely rewarding.
Okay, I'll work in reverse then. Most rewarding. I would say the couple times that I have run into folks, especially now that I'm able to be out in the different communities that we serve more, that already know my name from other entrepreneurs, it's just exciting to know that I'm hopefully starting to build more and more trust with folks. And I think what is most exciting about that outcome, not only just because it gives me the warm and fuzzies, is really that people feel supported to stay in the communities that they desire to do business. We serve such a large geographic region, and we're always happy to be working with larger cities like Mankato, Rochester, Winona, even Red Wing and Austin, Albert Lee. But it's fun to see folks who approach us that really are very set on having a business in Lanesboro or Madelia or places like that, where it's just not as expected. But they know that they have the support not only from us at SMIF, but through partners or through a really good EDA or a chamber that I'm able to get them connected to. That's been really fun. And I'm kind of starting to see these little cities pop up, and people are more interested in visiting them than ever before, due to the vibrancy of the small businesses and the communities that they're building there through the small businesses as well. But yeah, a big challenge I would say is, specifically for our Prosperity Initiative programming, we've only been doing that program for about 5 years now, 5 or 6 years. We've had about 60 to 70 entrepreneurs go through the program, but maybe one of the goals that I'm really trying to bring to the forefront of SMIF's mind is capturing more stories longer term with folks that we're serving. It's really easy once they're, matched with a coach that we know very well, because we use consultants to operate that program. And so we get a lot of really good feedback from both the coaches and the clients about how it's going and sort of where the gaps are that we're seeing, that, they just need more support in financial literacy or things like that. But longer term, it's really hard to stay in contact with small business owners and to let them know that we still want to be hearing from them and we still want to be helping them. Luckily, the program does accept people for a second round, so people can always come back. But I've found that that's been a really challenging thing, kind of stepping into a program and not having a whole lot to stand on. A lot of our companies have had to close even prior to COVID. And are those entrepreneurs doing something else, and sort of just being able to learn from those difficult situations how we could have better stepped in, or any of our partners could have as well.
Yeah, it's all trust and time. It seems like we're the issues for everybody there. No, I totally agree. Even, I was looking back at even the first podcast we did in the first 6 months or so, and most of those businesses don't even exist anymore. So it's just, some of them do and some of them don't. And keeping that constant communication, that's the challenge, working it into your workflow when we're already talking about how spread thin everybody is, to, be able to maintain that line of connection with people is really hard. So, we're all here to support entrepreneurs and build up an ecosystem around them that allows businesses to thrive. So thinking about that, what do each of you think? What is a story going on in the ecosystem right now, however you define that, that you think people should know about? Could be a business, could be a program, anything. What should people know about entrepreneurs that you work with?
There was recently an article done about this business in the Owatonna People's Press. So if you're curious to read more about it, you can go to their website. Shameless plug. So this entrepreneur, his name is Abel Tekesti, and he is originally from the country of Eritrea and has been living in Minnesota, specifically in Owatonna, for a while now. I'd probably say upwards of 10 years, but he comes from a food science background. I won't say much more about Abel, because honestly, like, everyone needs to meet him. He is just like the kindest and smartest person I've ever had the pleasure of working with. He was also the first person I ever did a business evaluation with as the program manager for this program. And I was so nervous. And he was lovely. And so he came in with a product that typically, with our Prosperity Initiative, just in the experience we've had so far, we really see smaller operations like restaurants, more service industry focused. But he came in with a product, because he comes from a food science background, that uses an ancestral grain from that portion of Africa to create energy bars, gluten-free pasta. And then he also had been working on a beer recipe using kind of a good mix of like Western style, like pretty traditional beer techniques, and like a technique that his grandmother had taught him. And so he is kind of in the food manufacturing space and is just a really hungry and excited entrepreneur. I actually he was just honestly so far along that I engaged with a consultant from CliftonLarsonAllen to see if he would very kindly offer his time at a much reduced rate to work with this young entrepreneur. And his name is Todd Churchill, and he engages with us in some of our other aspects of our work at the foundation. But Abel has been really like successful and very driven about keeping his manufacturing operation in southern Minnesota, and has had an opportunity to submit a loan application with us. I think what's just exciting is to see the high tech products coming through the Prosperity Initiative program as it's evolving, and as we're getting in these new audiences of folks who are coming with a lot of experience and background in their trades. I'm most excited about his project. Also, he's in Owatonna, so he comes by and we're able to engage with him more than typically we do with other Prosperity Initiative clients.
That's super cool. What was the name of the business? Has he registered a business name yet?
He does have a register. It's called Highwit Products. And he has a beautiful story behind the name of the company as well. And he's also the neighbor of one of our coworkers at SMIF. He goes, "Oh, he's that guy who makes beer in my neighborhood." And I go, "That's him." So he's a super cool guy.
Yeah, that is a great story.
For me, I think that the big undertold story, and you've done a great job of shining a light on this, Amanda, is just the vibrancy of our ecosystem in Rochester. It's something where once you're in it, you realize how rich it is and how far reaching, across fields, people, when you say Rochester, people think Mayo, medical, med tech, whatever. And it's no, we've got entrepreneurs across the spectrum, coming up with every type of solution and working in every field. And I mean, I think one of the best examples of that is the Minnesota Cup this year. We had three of the people who won their divisions were from Rochester, and a fourth was the runner-up in their division. And I think that took some people by surprise. They're like, "Oh, there's stuff going on in Rochester." It's yeah, there's a lot going on in Rochester, but as Minnesotans, we're not good at promoting ourselves and promoting our victories. Is that Minnesota humble. We don't like to really brag, but again, you've been doing a great job of shining the light on the success stories and what's actually going on in Rochester. And we just need more of it.
Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest stories recently is, these companies that are really taking off. I mean, like you said, and hopefully I'm trying to get all the Minnesota Cup winners on a podcast here shortly. I have a couple interviews lined up with them, but still waiting for one more.
That'd be rad.
Yeah, they all have been. I mean, the CASP technology team, which was the runner-up, I believe, in the youth division. Yeah, we've had them on before. I talked with them a while ago. And then, we've had companies on Shark Tank and things. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here in southeast Minnesota and in Rochester that just, often gets overlooked. We have a lot more than medical companies in this community, a whole lot more, I would say.
Well, I think part of that too is that the med tech startup story is an easier story for outsiders to tell about Rochester. They have to do less explaining about why is there a travel company, starting up in Rochester? That doesn't make any sense. And so they have to explain that. But, so I think it is more of almost I don't want to say laziness on the part of other entrepreneurial storytellers outside of Rochester, but it's just low hanging fruit to say med tech out of Rochester and Mayo.
I think too, because it's a huge financial win, but like we're talking about, these, the food science business and the beer and the the granola bars, if we're talking about like Pasquale getting in, making a frozen pizza line and, having pasta sauce all in the Hy-Vees. I'm not even sure how many he's in right now, but a lot, that's a huge story. And sometimes it's not as exciting because there's not as much money involved as, a tech exit or something like that. So, I mean, I think
that's a big part of it too. Yeah. The shiny gold that's associated with tech startups compared to more traditional businesses, the consumer product market that, scales to a national level isn't nearly as exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and I feel like consistently, Southern Minnesota is just fighting back against that. Like, yeah, it's just all farms and big ag. So we do see as SMIF has slowly been evolving in its relationship with the local foods work that's going on in the region, Revel and, other bigger names like that have sort of caught people's interest, but even just on a smaller scale, some of the work we've been doing with farmers markets and engaging with them about that, these cottage like industries, like things that they're doing at home are businesses, and that people can turn them into really lucrative and full-time brands and businesses that could sustain themselves in their communities. So,
well, and going along with that too, med tech startup that exits in 3 years is a lot more exciting than mom and pop business that takes 10 years to make it on the Hy-Vee shelf. So it's they're all stories that need to be told, but for outsiders it's what's shiny and new and exciting versus the more traditional entrepreneurialism that we all deal with, probably more than the high-tech, high-growth startups.
Yeah, I definitely know for me, work with more small and medium-sized businesses than high-tech, high-growth businesses. And yeah, Revel's the one that's based in Owatonna. Is that right? Yeah. I just found that out like a few weeks ago. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't know that. And like one of my friends works there and I finally like put it together. I'm like, oh, that's the mic. That's he just calls it an indoor lettuce growing company. I'm like, that's where you are. Just that little indoor lettuce growing company that's all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. The aquaponics and hydroponic, because there's another company that's popped up near Medford, so right just north of Owatonna, that does something similar. But Revel really beat them out market wise, and they're relocating to Indiana, I think, which is a really big bummer, and definitely a really sad thing to see such a large. I think they employ like 80 people too. So, well, we'll see. We'll got to keep fighting for those ones to stay, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's the thing people forget, that small businesses actually create more jobs than large organizations, even in Rochester. Like that is the thing. So my last question for you all, for people listening in, how could they be more supportive of small business, or what should they know about small business that they should appreciate? And your work as well. How can the community just be more supportive of small business entrepreneurship and people assisting on that journey? What should they know about this work?
So the thing that I have come across through administering the grant programs has really been the word of mouth side of it, and how important word of mouth is to entrepreneurs and the success of entrepreneurs. So, not only, shopping local, but then also, telling your friends about it. And, I heard this really cool story about this company that, just started up, down the road, that kind of thing. That awareness is key to the success of the local businesses. And, without that word of mouth, especially for like these grant programs and stuff, we can take out ads all day, but if it doesn't connect to the entrepreneur who needs us, we're not going to do any good. And that's where it's like, hey, I heard about this grant program. You should go apply for it. So, really trying to almost make everyone in the community a connector in that way. Our doors are always open. If you leave me a voicemail, I'll reply within, 24, 48 hours tops. Or you can shoot me an email and I'll reply, within the day. And, it really is, our doors are always open for entrepreneurs within our region. I mean, even entrepreneurs outside the region. I was judging for the Minnesota Cup and, just happy to help entrepreneurs anywhere, because you never know when that, person is going to end up on your doorstep someday. So,
yeah, I guess I'll just kind of underscore a few pieces that Sean highlighted there. I think just knowing that the door is always open and we're always happy to, even if it's just an idea that you're bouncing around, know that the supports are there for you to develop it or to think it through at any other, any stage in the process. We've seen such success with peer networks because that inherent understanding that entrepreneurs have with one another, and saying, hey, well, I got a grant from them once and it actually wasn't that hard, and here's somebody I know. I just think the more that we can incentivize people to do that. I think buy local has just been like, not to beat a dead horse. And I think COVID really did incentivize that for people for the first time, and that's great. Just continue to get out there and don't ask entrepreneurs for free stuff all the time. If you really want them to be a sponsor for stuff, show up and call each other in and see how you can support people. Crowdfunding can go a lot farther than I think people are aware of, but I don't think I have anything else to add on that front.
Yeah, no, I think that is so true. I agree that, I think COVID brought an understanding to what happens when these businesses don't get support locally and they do go away, and they go away for good. Yeah, that was my last question for both of you. I appreciate your time so much, and I'll ask you just to end with any final thoughts and the best place for people to connect with yourself and the organization that you are with.
You go, Maddy.
No, you unmute. I operate preferably by phone, which it may surprise people. I would way rather have you text me or call me. And so I can make my number available to you if you want to put that in there, or I answer email probably just as quickly, but happy to, if there's any questions that people have about the lending program, Prosperity Initiative, or technical assistance, I'm happy to be the person to field those.
Yeah, no, similarly, my door's always open. Our office number is 507-288-0208. Again, that's 507-288-0208. We are mostly working remotely though. So just, leave a message and we'll call you back, if we don't pick up. And then my email address is swilliams@raedi.com. That's RAEDI, Rochester Area Economic Development Inc.com, but condensed into our acronym. So yeah, either email or voicemail is fine. And then our website is raedi.com, and there's a bunch of resources up there that just offerings that we have that are going on, like with the grant program that's up there. And as a new one pops up, it'll show up there as well. But, really just, reach out, and if I can't help you, I'll connect you to somebody who will. So that's really, what we're here for.
Well, Sean, Maddy, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thanks so much to Maddy and Sean for sitting down for this conversation today and sharing stories from their work within the entrepreneurial ecosystem. You can learn more about both SMIF and RAEDI by checking out the links in our show notes and finding out what they have for your entrepreneurial journey. So if you know an entrepreneur who would benefit from the conversation today, we encourage you to share this podcast with them so they can learn about these resources within our ecosystem. All right, that's a wrap for podcast episode 247. One of our last two podcasts here at Rochester Rising. So again, Thank you so much for tuning in, and please make sure that you are subscribed to the Collider newsletter and to the Collider social media so that you stay up to date with stories from our entrepreneurial ecosystem. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you come back next week for our last podcast.